So for chapter 11, part two, we're going to focus mainly for most of the talk today on athletic performance, okay, what athletes need to do. So it's not your general population. It's more of your uh, athletes, okay, your college athletes, your people who are vigorously exercising for several hours a week, okay? So the main sorry, athletic athletes often do manipulate their diet. They're usually very competitive focus, and that is fantastic. They are um, looking at strength training, looking at uh, improving their overall physical fitness and really wanting to optimize their physical fitness. And part of that, why some people are better at it than others, is what we call genetic endowment. These inherited physical activities or physical characteristics, excuse me, that can affect an athlete's physical performance. So their body size, their shape, their composition, their diet that they can, well, diet's not genetic, but if they have these general physical characteristics, and their body is more tend to be more athletic, then they're already a little bit ahead of the game. But things that they can change, what athletes can change is mental and physical training and their overall diet. Okay, there's a lot to be said about an athlete's motivation. They're very competitive. They focus on their overall nutrition. They focus on hydration. They focus on physical activity. They really thrive on those benefits from physical activity, which is a good thing. And so much so that sports nutrition is a whole different area. It's a separate field of study outside of nutrition that focuses on these basic nutrition and dietetic principles, but strictly for improving this athletic performance. So when we look at energy for athletes, okay, and so don't freak out when you see these huge numbers because these are huge numbers. Remember, we're talking about um, uh, athletes, okay? Remember your average person, and when you guys do your nutrition project, you're going to see, I doubt any of you, okay, are going to be up here close to the 50 kilocalorie per kilogram um, uh, per day. I mean, that's like 5,000, almost 5,000 calories a day. Okay. If you are, then that means you are probably, exercising at a high intensity, and that's fantastic. Um, but just know that we're talking about energy for athletic performance. Okay. So in general, in athletes, males 50 calories per kilogram, females 45 to 50 calories per kilogram. And when we look at carbohydrate intake, um, there again, these are high numbers, but they're looking at things like carb loading, which we'll talk about here in a minute. And remember, the body loves to use glucose and carbohydrates for energy. Okay, so 170 pound on give or take athlete, um, huge amount of carbohydrates. The average American, we're looking at uh, it's about 200 to 250 grams of carbohydrate a day, and even that is high. All right, so we're looking here at athletes, but there again, it's different from athletes, okay, because they need that energy. So when we look at this high amount of carbohydrate, where is that going to come from? You see, it's going to come from your pastas, your breads, and pre-event meal um, loading or carbohydrate loading. is sometimes recommended. And oftentimes, athletes who are getting ready to have a big game or big race or big track meet or big, like Ironman or whatever that they're preparing for, are going to prep dietetically or nutritionally for that a week in advance, as you see here, what they will need. Vigorous exercise lasting for more than 60 minutes is going to deplete glycogen stores. And so, yeah, when you, during that event and after that event, looking at how are you going to replenish those carb stores, the glycogen stores that you have just exhumed or exerted during the event. You do want to look at that. So, in recovery, okay, after the event, you see here 6 to 12 grams of carbohydrate per body weight. This is the post-meal refueling of that glycogen store. But there again, the average American does definitely not need to do this. And I highly recommend more looking at proteins and fluid, which is where we're going to spend the rest of our time. So athletes in general need 1.4 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. And this is, on average, the average non-athlete, as you saw back in the previous chapter, anywhere from zero point 0.8 to about 1.2 grams a kilogram, or excuse me, grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. So we're not too far off the mark here. And most people are a little low in protein anyway. Um, when we look at energy bars and energy gels, these are, I always say food first, okay, if at all possible. These types of energy bars and protein gels, they are high in protein, but they're not quick energy sources. So, and that's true, right? Because there is protein. Carbs and glucose is the quick energy source. So proteins are more for long-term replenishment, and they do serve a purpose, but oh my gosh, they are extremely expensive. So um, that's why I always, eat a good a couple of deviled eggs, a good chef salad, okay, and you'll get your 20 grams of protein. Um, but they are convenient, okay? Deviled eggs are not always convenient, and I get that. So energy drinks. Okay, energy drinks usually do contain sugar. So, and energy drinks are different than quote unquote sports drinks, and we'll look at those in the fact that energy drinks are usually going to have caffeine, that natural stimulant that uh, increases muscle contraction, increases alertness, and that's why people like it. And your textbook has a wonderful list of caffeine in foods. I forget exactly which page that's on, but we talk a little bit more about caffeine later on. It is on page 456, actually, talks about different the caffeine content in certain beverages. So we're going to talk a little bit more before we leave today about these ergogenic aids here. So energy drinks, yes, they are good because they do allow you to focus on fluid, all right? And this is the minimum, okay? Athlete or not, we're looking at the adequate intake for total water for males and females. So if you are an athlete and exerting that energy, that activity, yes, you're going to need more. If it's a really hot day and you're working outside or running outside, then yes, you're going to need more. Okay. So that depends on your overall environmental conditions. Speaking of being outside, things we do want to be aware of: heat cramps, heat exhaustion, and heat stroke. So make sure you review these. Heat cramps, the signs and symptoms are going to be painful muscle contractions. Heat exhaustion is where there again, severe headache, there again, cramps, and possibly disorientation, dizziness, that type of thing. And then you don't want to mess around with heat stroke. A heat stroke is where the body temperature has risen to a point where the body cannot accommodate, no longer sweating, and it is definitely like life-threatening. So hydration here and temperature prevents heat cramps, heat exhaustion, heat stroke. Definitely seek medical attention. When we look at sports drinks, there again, do you really even need one? Okay, they're expensive. They do contain sugar. So water is recommended. And unless you are doing in high intensity physical activity for more than an hour, okay, then yes, getting a sports drink that's going to have replenished electrolytes, going to be somewhat low in carbohydrate, but it's going to have those essential sodium, the essential sodium and other electrolytes that are going to help with replenishing hydration. I'm definitely not against sports drinks. I'm more in favor of sports drinks than energy drinks, um, because there is a benefit to sports drinks after exercise. When we look at certain types of supplements, iron, yes. Okay, we've talked about. Remember when we reviewed the vitamin and mineral chapter a couple chapters ago, and we talked about the importance of iron and calcium. So yes, definitely, if you are a high athletic performer, you definitely need iron, okay, to be able to transport that oxygen to obtain your energy. And if you are a high intensity athlete, yes, you're going to need calcium to help maintain the wear and tear of the bones and build that stronger skeletal system for the weight bearing exercise and bone density. And then lastly, we'll talk real quick about ergonomic aids. Ergonomic aids are really anything that you can use to improve your physical performance. So food, devices, supplements, drugs. All right. So just be aware though, right here, this sentence right here. And if you want to review table 11.8 on page 454 of your textbook, it goes over some of the more popular ergonomic supplements and aids. But right here, little reliable scientific evidence supports the effectiveness of most dietary supplements. Okay. If it's not water, if it's not an electrolyte, if it's not a carbohydrate, it hasn't been proven reliable to really help. So there again, food first. Okay. Whenever possible, food first. Eat your fruits, eat your vegetables, drink your water, avoid sugar, and um, that will go a long way in improving your physical performance. Caffeine, we talked about how caffeine is the most widely used ergonomic aid, and it is a stimulant. So you see here where the National Association of Collegiate Athletes here has banned caffeine and other stimulants. It's in the list of stimulants that are banned. And on average, about less than 200 milligrams of caffeine is recommended per day. And that's like 2 cups of coffee. Okay. So you can kind of see where if you're taking a lot of energy drinks and working out a lot, it can lead to issues. So just be aware of that. And also, caffeine is a diuretic, so it causes you to lose more fluid than you really need. And can dehydrate you. So really look at that as well. And then lastly, we'll finish here by looking at just the basics of a general everyday fitness plan. So these are for your basic everyday patients, your non-athletes, those patients who are just wanting to improve their overall fitness, don't want to go and join a Ironman triathlon thing. They just want to, improve their balance, be more flexible, being able to run around with the kids after work type thing. So the initiation phase is the first 3 to 6 weeks where they are incorporating the routine. Okay. just getting that physical activity into their daily routine. Once they have that physical activity in their daily routine, then they reach this maintenance stage. This is where they may reach their fitness goals and they're trying to maintain or fine tune their fitness plan and trying to maintain that satisfaction and mix it up a little bit. Try to avoid getting stale with their workouts. A general aerobic workout routine, 5 to 10 minutes of warm up, 20 to 30 minutes of duration, and then about a 10-minute cool down. And there again, you can work on the intensity and the progression as part of that regimen as well. And then lastly, do not forget strength training.